I don't think that's really a waste.
There's no time being wasted because we are now with friends. Welcome back to Actual Play, Girl by Moonlight. This is episode 2, part 2. And I'm here with Andrew and Andy and Strash. And we've just played our characters doing their obligations, which stunk, and doing their downtime actions, which have been cool, but also still kind of sad in a lot of ways too. And I think...
I don't mean to alarm you, but everything is going to be kind of sad all the time.
Well, right.
I'm sorry.
Didn't want to give it away. let people experience that. And I just did my second downtime action. So, Strash, I think it's to you to do Reyna's.
Oh, we're in sequence.
I think
we don't have to. We can bounce around if.
I know what I want, so I'm good.
Not it.
I feel like mechanically speaking, I should prep the Bastion some more, but I would like to create a social link with Abbott, actually.
What's that look like?
I think there's this mimic where, you're like working like on an engine or something.
To be clear, when Abbott's working on an engine, like there's a screwdriver in her hand and she's talking. Almost always. Please continue.
Like one of those moments where it's a shot of like you working, and then like it's a reverse shot where we see your face as you're like screwing something in or wrenching something or whatever, and then you realize that there's like a person standing next to you, and I like try to politely wait for like 5 minutes, and then if there's no response, I like lean in, and then I lean in some more until eventually like my face is in front of you and I'm trying to get your attention. And I've got like a little basket. It's like a little half round basket filled with some stuff, and then it's like there's got some like cloth tied up on it. And I kind of wave at you and I say like, "Hey, you should come with me."
Screwdriver. Yeah, right.
So there's like this montage of well, actually we walk down a hallway, and this is like a giant ancient fortress, and it's got that modern tech running throughout it, and like the hangars might have a lot of that like stone architecture and everything, but they also have like floodlights, and like you can see like power in the walls through the corridors where like people are supposed to walk.
Yeah, there's lots of like big wire bundles running along things because the place isn't wired for stuff, so it's all going to be on the ground.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where we're walking through a hallway that has these wire bundles running along like the base in a corner somewhere. And there's like a small crack in the wall. And I like pause, and then I furtively look left and right. And this is a lot like how I do a lot of stuff that I it's I have no idea if you would even know or notice this, but like whenever my character is about to do something that like connects to her on a deeper level, she always like makes sure that nobody can notice, because like when she's in public, she's always like fire hair and like posing and like doing all that stuff. So I think I like furtively glance left and right, and then I step through the crack, and I kind of like beckon you along.
So good. And might be the first time we've seen Abbott smile.
Okay.
And then like duck into this crevice, cranny, crack to wherever we're going. And as she ducks under, comments to you, "You planned ahead. Good job."
I think I almost get into an argument with you, even though it's super one-sided, where I'm like, "What do you mean I planned ahead? Good job. I always plan ahead. Don't you?" And like, it's like, what do you, like, name one time I did not plan ahead. Of course, I do it all the time, and everybody that watched the show knows this, but yeah. But I think that there's like a montage of us walking like up pipes that are like overgrown with like moss. And like, there's like obviously like we're walking between the walls where like the machinery that like kept the castle together, it's like ancient tech or whatever. And we get to a certain point, and there's a ledge. And it's pretty obvious that in my current condition, I can't get up it myself. And you get the sense that half the reason I brought you is I can't get there alone.
Can you give me a hand? Okay, cool. We're good. Thanks.
And I will pause behind you and be like, up.
Mm-hmm.
And like fingers like in a saddle, like hoisty, right? So for you to put a foot into.
Cool. But when I get to the top, I actually drop down a rope, which is one of the items that I brought along. So, and
Great.
yeah, I think when we finish this little, when we finish this little montage, again, there's like a crack in the wall or a segment or something. It's obvious that I'm taking byways that aren't intended to be used for traversal.
Yeah.
It's just that in this castle of giants, we're walking through the cracks like mice.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment where we step through, and sort of like the visual in my head is a lot like the room near the base of the tower in like Laputa, where like there's like a single tree and like grasses, and there's like a micro system, like a microecological system with like a blue glowing rock or something, and maybe even a stream running through the middle of it, which makes no gosh darn sense.
There's like water trickling down a massive wall.
Yeah.
Pools on a rock that's like fallen from above. Yeah, or something like that. Totally.
And I take the basket, which once I remove all the cloth bindings off of it is obviously for it's like packed for a picnic. And I drop it in a stream of water, which is gonna cool off our drinks and make our vegetables taste fresh. And I'm like, lunchtime, and I'm gonna
make the protein packs taste fresh.
Yeah, what do y'all eat?
Yeah, do we have like real vegetation, or are we like MREs?
Food?
It's a mix, right? There's lots of like mushroom blocks, and things like that have been trained to grow in low light that are like lots of kale.
I think occasionally we get like special treats because we have preferential treatment.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that Reina, having been unconscious for like a week or whatever, has saved up her like special rations. So she's like, got the good stuff.
So good. Okay, excellent.
Lucius just suggested bento boxes, which I love as
obviously it's bento boxes. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Great. So good. I think Abbott will is in the process of arriving in this space spin time, like again with trailing her fingers across things, and maybe even leans her head on a wall, or ends up getting way soaked. Like is really drawn like and interested in the stream of water. And I think one of the things that starts to become real evident when she hangs out in proximity to that water is she's always sort of like low tonally, but kind of some like fog and mist rise up off of the waterfall in her proximity and kind of sticks to her when she comes away. To see what you're doing.
I think I've taken off shoes. I actually like stretch my feet in the grass and stuff. I lie down with my arms spread out, and this is obviously like the place where I come when I don't want to go to parties and get children to yell at me. This is like my relaxing place, and I couldn't get to it. So like now you know where my secret relaxing
place
is.
Your hideout.
My hideout.
Is this at like the edge of the floating island that the fortress is built on? So there's just like a fucking drop into nowhere.
Yes, please.
Actually, that would be really cool. And maybe it's like inside, like it's like a nook somewhere underneath it. So like when it lifts off, there's just like sky.
Oh yeah. There's like
outside one side, and like the water that comes through and flows through just falls down. So when the island lifts up, there's like a little tiny waterfall out some section,
trailing it. Yeah, that just like disperses into mist.
Yeah,
so good. Abbott will sort of turn and watch you doing your comfy thing.
But like it's pretty obvious that like when I'm walking around, like my hair is doing the whole red thing, but when I'm here, I'm like chill and relaxed. So like it fades back down to that like dimmer color kind of flow. And that's it. I think I'm just gonna share my lunch with you and ask you not to tell other people about this place. Well, actually, no. I think there's a moment where I start to ask you that, and I'm like, "You're Abbott," and I just like keep eating like my cucumber or whatever. Like I eat tomatoes like they're apples.
Sure. And that very like that part where you start to and then just cut yourself off, Abbott very like doesn't say anything but just sort of like shrinks a little bit. Like
I hold up a finger, I pull out a bento box, I unveil it with a flourish. And you mentioned that you had kind of like a hair like the was it like the one
Like the photogenic cows.
yes, the Highland coos.
And there's a I've made adorable little bento cows for you. And I like open mine, and they've got little adorable bento cats for me. You know, like they're like
Nice
rolls that I've like done little art on and stuff. I'm just like, hey, you know.
Abbott will just sort of like very like take the time to enjoy them before eating them, and ends up eating them like carefully, and starts like, have you ever thought about how this sort of planning ahead would really serve you when it came to like being a pilot?
And I am taking entire headfuls and shoving them into my mouth until my cheeks like are the size of squirrels, and I'm like, and I'm like done before you even like delicately eat your first piece.
Yeah, exactly that. And we'll go on to talk about like sometimes you can be friends with strangers, and just like you might be interested, but it's also so like there's a lot of borrow words that she doesn't ever explain what they are. Like ends up talking about like the waterfall, which she's not talking about the waterfall, maybe, or maybe she is.
You know what? I think I probably have a very similar conversation with you where it's all subtext, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I miss this place. Clearly, I'm talking about my dead friend. You know?
Utterly. And what is her name?
Zyra.
What's Zyra?
Caira. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I feel like a lot of this show has subtitles, right? Like people say a thing and then it's like feeling sad, remembering her friend, right?
Sure. I think after a long pause, despite having missed like that subtext of I missed this place, Abbott will be like, did you find this place? Or was it Zyra? Like, because it could only be one or the other of you, and whether or not there's a response.
I think there's like silence for a good 30 seconds. And then I just say like, I was always too busy training. Meaning that I don't always go wandering around castles or keeps. So clearly it was her, but I refuse to say her name like out loud, like it's cursed or something.
Great. Cue uncomfortable silence for you, and Abbott is perfectly comfortable in the silence.
Awesome. I think this is our building social links.
Great.
I have no idea what skill it is because I just frame scenes and then I punish my poor GM by asking them.
Great.
I actually should.
What did I just do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Tell me about that.
Well,
I mean,
first we can ask: is this something that Abbott would enjoy?
New secret spots, food. Got to make friends with a waterfall. Like, yeah. Yep. I guess also getting to help Raina think about the part where we're planning ahead's great. Good job.
Look at the first line of confess. When you confess, you expose your inner world and your thoughts and feelings to another. I don't know if this is your inner world, but it's definitely like revealing a secret.
Yeah.
Could be that.
Sure is.
Definitely a front runner. It didn't seem like you had a particular agenda in mind.
Right.
You weren't trying to be like, I'm taking you to the spot, so like now
we can smooch.
Or yeah, we're gonna do this thing or whatever. And there wasn't a lot of convincing going on. It was just like, this is part of me, and this thing stands as like an object in place of your feelings and like is symbolic of your relationship with this friend of yours who's dead. And there was a lot of, yeah. I think confess just seems like the clear.
It seems perfect. Yeah. It's just that Raina never talks about her feelings. She just demonstrates them by usually doing really bizarre things. Apparently, I'm learning about my character tonight.
Yeah, and so confess doesn't list using words as a necessity for it, whereas express that is like strictly true. So yeah, like this can be a totally appropriate.
I dig it. I also need to buy some confess, apparently. Let's do this.
Any character with like a troubled past having some confess, because you can
So good.
Well, I get only one bond, but that's okay.
All right. Well, so Andy's going to write it down on her sheet. But essentially, social links get used back at you by the person who has them.
Right.
So this link being on Andy's sheet will let her later use it to help Rena. When she's blind. So you're investing in your future.
Ta-da-da!
So the restriction of Andy of the stranger, none of us will ever be able to help you in that way. You can never form a social bond with us so that we can give this back, right?
Yeah, she can't lean on you guys because she doesn't offer anything up.
Got it.
Sounds really bad when I put it that way. Anyways,
I think it's there's a glimmer of great truth therein.
Yeah.
It's hard for the stranger.
Yeah.
It's hard for the rest of us too.
Aww.
And speaking of the stranger, I think Andy,
yeah, you're up.
Yeah. So here's a really important question. The stranger can't social link with other player characters. Can the stranger bond with an engine?
There is no restriction preventing you from bonding with an engine.
Wanted to check.
A lot like doing social link, but it's distinct for a reason. Yeah.
Great. So then the other important thing here is, so the way you all are conceptualizing our affiliation with engines is that you all at least are strongly marketed as paired up with engines. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think that it's just like people trading teams and like people switching positions on a team. I'm making a lot of sports references because it feels like that's the closest thing to it. It certainly changes. It's probably a branding decision to change. Like, it's getting stale. Let's throw them in a different engine, right? Like that's a way that we reinvent ourselves. So I don't think it's a permanent thing at all, but I do think there's a lot of marketing that goes around putting us in an engine. If we go out in the wrong one, that's like a huge snafu from the PR perspective.
Sure. And I get the impression that between Tor, or I guess, between Prophet and Arena and our now Feld companion, like the three of you were like the front face people, right? Versus I have an impression that like Abbott is often overlooked. And so like no one cares necessarily what Abbott's doing. Abbott isn't a face on a flyer. Or
and
maybe go ahead.
You're the rookie. Right, because you weren't a pilot in season 1.
Right.
Because you couldn't have possibly been. And so you have been brought into the team to replace someone.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah.
Right, like I'm just trying to keep everything we talked about previously.
Yes, do please.
Here. So the only way that this can all add up. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would love it if that's how it was before when you were a pilot, when you were a technician, you were completely invisible. But well, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is something you like, but I do like the idea that now that there's a lot of pressure on you, is like it's like to see like what will the rookie do. So
you're being pushed uncomfortably into the spotlight where before you didn't need to be.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not going well. Just a hunch.
Yeah,
it's going confusingly.
Well, it's why you wearing a non-regulation uniform is a problem from their perspective, right? Like it's why I just want to wear my old dad's fisherman sweater. Is not cool because you're not sending the right image, right?
Right.
From that perspective.
Utterly.
In a couple episodes, they'll decide that they just need to spin that into being your style. You're like the hometown hero.
Right.
You're very like Rocky as opposed to,
great.
Dolph Lundgren's character was.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. Sounds great. So this is all to be said because I was trying to figure out what engine Abbott would want to go bond with, because it is very, very common for Abbott to go talk to the moon But that's on Abbott's time.
Yeah, that's not a professional relationship. That's a personal relationship.
Absolutely. And to my understanding, the chariot is being piloted by Irena. Yeah. And then the magician is being piloted by Tor, which is what, by the way, Tor is what Abbott calls the prophet.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Apparently, because of torsion is a great word.
Because she's the prophet of torsion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't. Sean is not married to that, but I think that makes sense. Yeah,
that's great.
That's what I envisioned. Yeah,
that's what I wanted to check, because that definitely is lovely and good, because it makes lots of sense for Abbott to go make friends with the hangman.
Oh goodness, the one that is constantly falling apart
and is wise and wounded.
Yeah, just like you.
Could be. So I think that's in the process of all this, Abbott will you see Abbott leaving, like it's kind of like her shop or an office that she shares with Beaumont, and there's like a bunch of tools on the wall that are hung up in tidy rows, and like they've clearly never been used. They don't like.
They get taken down occasionally and used as like tokens. But...
Yeah, and the one token that Abbott uses over and over again is like, I guess today it will be a wrench. Like we'll just grab a spanner, right? And grab that. That's I'm doing mechanic-y things. See, and we'll go visit the hangman in her bay, and remind me what the hangman looks like.
The hangman. Yeah, so the hangman is a stone creature that looks bipedal, and has all these like rough stone plates on the outside, like a suit of armor, but they're just falling apart at all times, and there's all these chains wrapped around it. And the hangman is like in action. We've seen the hangman can like fire out like parts of itself and stretch itself way out.
Okay.
Hold it together so it can like kind of like,
yo pieces back that have been torn off of it.
Yeah, all those places. And the normal kind of, just to get real literal with the imagery, the normal way that we find it in the hangar is hanging from the chains like upside down, like that's how it's stored.
Great.
Is wrapped.
So it has like a bat-like.
It's like a bat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's like how it's supposed to be stored, right? That's not. And yeah, there's just like tons of like parts of it that have been like replaced and rebuilt, or
scavenged from other engines or something.
Yeah, its hull is corpses.
Yeah,
it is a horrible zombie creature as far as these things go.
Right, and I think on its head there's like a giant black helm that has like this closed visor, and you can't see into like where its eyes would be.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay, fantastic. So in this dark bay where the hangman is upturned and inert, and I think so Abbott will sort of stand there for a time, holding this wrench sort of at her side, just in her hand, still ward off any interference, and we'll ask the hangman to like. What you see from an outsider view is that Abbott ends up standing there with this wrench still in her hand at her side, and the hangman extends out a hand. And I imagine the scale of the engines is massive. Like I'm sure it varies from engine to engine, but I have this imagining that it's not like 3 or 4 or 5 times like people tall, but like yet again larger. So this just overwhelmingly large hand just kind of reaches out.
Who can stand in the palm of its hand?
Very much.
60, 100 feet tall kind of range, maybe.
I believe you when there are numbers. I just have feelings about it.
Let's get the rulers out here and roll 20.
We can do that.
taller than large buildings.
Okay, it's like
Yeah, that big. Good job. Correct. And we'll sort of lift this person, like almost hold them like at their throat, at their neck, upside down for a time, and like so hands instead of like as you see like on the depiction of the hangman card where it's behind that figure's back, like in the front of them. Yeah, so like there. Yes, however we invert that.
Demonstrate this, but
good luck. And they'll sit and have a conversation. I think Abbott will tell the hangman the story about how she was exposed, how she became a pilot, how she was exposed to Leviathan sickness.
What kind of Leviathan were you exposed to?
One of like fog and fox weddings and frost and like wind and water. So this big, like slow moving frozen
let me just check
blanket
here. Yeah, okay. We got one for that.
Great. Yeah, something that is suppressing and silently and cold and dampening and obfuscating.
That aligns perfectly and maps perfectly to one that I had plotted up as a
Great. I'm excited about that. So,
and no one's ever seen it clearly. It's just this big like serpentine thing that was in mist, and yeah. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And Abbott will sort of very quietly tell the hangman the story about going out with her sister to meet a Leviathan, and we'll then sort of tell the story again about how her sister needed her help because she went out after a Leviathan because her sister wanted to become exposed to a Leviathan so she could be a pilot. And then we'll tell the story again about how not only did she want to be a pilot, but she tricked Abbott into coming out with her because Abbott was supposed to die because Abbott is small and weak and unworthy.
Right. And of course, your sister ended up not getting exposed.
Correct.
Well, or she just got exposed enough to not work. Now she's like a PR piece, but she's not a pilot. That's so sad on all.
And she's your girlfriend.
And she's my girlfriend.
Stage girlfriend.
Yeah. Like, and so there's this sort of like this flashback to Abbott hauling her much larger, like taller sister who looks half drowned and wind whipped and back from somewhere outside.
And I think in response to your story, the hanged man, you can hear like its arms straining and groaning to hold you up as if you're like, as if your sadness had literal weight. And as your story, reaches its end, there's like this groaning and creaking, and it has to like catch its one hand in the other and like hug you close in order to actually like support the weight of you.
Sure.
Yeah, so it like creaks and groans and strains, and the chains like, make those metal on metal sounds.
Great. And in this telling the story, Abbott more and more like there's more like fog comes into being around her and like surrounds the two of them and like fills the bay.
Oh yeah, it gets like cold in there. And someone's like, one of the condensers broke, and there's like a team of engineers that like run off to like fix something.
Yeah. That doesn't. That's how Abbott makes friends.
Just want to say that like as sad as that is for Abbott, it also like makes me feel really sad for Astera because she like wanted to become this thing and was willing to kill her sister and is now watching her sister do it and is the trophy girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like the complete opposite of everything she wanted happened.
And I wonder if she chose that, like, things that she could still be sort of in the limelight. Like maybe she chose that as like a really, really, really far second choice because it was all that she could do. It's so tragic on all fronts.
Yeah, she can at most be like an accessory to the thing that she wanted.
Right, which is this inversion of how I feel like in this society that is really on about like strength, for Abbott to be the one who's successful is like a deep affront.
It's fucked up. Everyone's like, what the? You? You're a
pilot?
Yeah.
Cool. Great.
So that
I feel like that can maybe play into the hanged man being wounded. And like, I view that as like a very tragic vibe to it. So I'm willing to float you an extra die here.
Great. For my thing. I feel like this is probably confess.
Sounds like it.
What it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Great.
Telling a sad personal anecdote to a giant robot.
Yeah, and a sad personal anecdote that she hasn't told anybody. Right. And like this is the first time we've had the pleasure of learning about this.
Yeah. The great thing about these robots is they're really good listeners.
Yeah, they are.
To anybody, even. I mean, not just strangers, we can all just go.
All right. So if I've got that one bonus die to my 0 confess, I'm at 1. Yeah?
Yeah, and there'll be a spot in the formula to add a bonus.
Totally.
Die.
3.
Great. So you get 1 link on your sheet.
Great.
The hanged man. And I think eventually it just like can't hold you up anymore. After you like standing there and talking all this sad stuff. Like eventually its hand just gives out and like flumps onto the floor with a loud crash. And it like makes a pained groan. This weird like death rattly sound as like some part of it releases some air. There's just like a and then it slowly
feels so bad for the spec.
It's slowly, as if there's someone turning a winch to like retract all the chains, like recoils back into its resting pose after releasing you onto the floor.
So good.
I think this engine has like outlived generations of engines, right? Like this
is like the first one ever or something.
Sure. Old and tired and wears it in their being.
Well, great. Nice. Everyone's done a downtime action now. Yeah.
Strash, do you have another yet?
No.
No, wait. Sorry.
I did both of mine.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm good.
That's right, because you bonded with my bet. Yep.
Okay, so does anyone want to gamble for an extra one?
No.
All right. So a friendly reminder that if you look in the top right corner of this sheet, our readiness is at 1 pip out of a possible 15. So y'all aren't really
ready,
prepared for, and the Bastion isn't prepared for stuff, which is going to negatively impact your engagement roll. And I'm not saying this with any kind of like judgment or like so therefore you need to do blah. But this is just where we're at, just so you know. So this will be a factor. So don't go trying to do anything too fancy on this particular sortie. Because it's going to go badly for you probably, or start.
Let's do something fancy.
Or just go for it. I don't know. Have a brutal engagement roll and be in a desperate position the whole time. That's fine too. But that's just so y'all know, that's something to be ready for.
Strash is content. Where are you at, oh troubled captain?
Do you mean where am I at in terms of what kind of mission should we go on, or where am I at?
Are you content with with not doing more prep, like for another downtime action, playing that? Like, are you content to go forward?
Yeah, I'm totally. Great. I mean, I think it's fine to. Yeah, I can't tell yet the economy of whether we should push it. So I'm happy to just start with you get 2. Let's use them. See what's happening, and I'd love to see the next phase. So we've all had these very sad scenes, and I want to go punch things.
Great
with giant robots.
So if you want to stick to the like easiest mission options, there's defend the last bastion or explore the ruined world. defend the last bastion would be to fend off a Leviathan attack on the bastion. Explore the ruined world is explore the world beyond the bastion or within it, looking for information, solace, and hope.
I think since we just described last season as like pushing them way back and we bought ourselves some time and space, I feel like exploring the world really makes sense. Like if the Leviathans have sort of ceased for a moment, we should go find out why and where they are and what else is around. That's my
or one of them like charges the gates. Like you guys get to be in charge of making that decision. Because if you choose to fend off an attack by a Leviathan, that means that there is one.
Okay.
And if you don't, then it means that there isn't necessarily, or there might be, and y'all might be busy doing something else, and it just starts smashing things, and other people have to deal with it. But
I am excited about the idea of going off and exploring, if only because then we get to go be like, what world are we in? However, I'm also way into if you all need to let off some steam and hit some stuff.
Yeah, the one where
I see you, Strash.
Hit stuff is to fend off a Leviathan attack. Exploring the world beyond the bastion or within it can be like time where you're not necessarily piloting engines.
Okay, then I take it back. Let's go punch the thing.
I'm just trying to honor the statement of wanting to punch things.
Right. I mean, I feel like in this first game and this first thing, me as Sean as a player wants to try out this what's on the label, right? Like what's
we've hit the tragic part.
Right. We've done that very well. So
do some magic stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think there's like a montage of like alerts going off and people scrambling and a very hasty like briefing in some room with like, the rows of desks where you all sit down and one points at a map or something like a computerized map. We see Nono like doing an equivalent briefing, but for like the camera crews and the commentators and stuff. There's like this whole other team that works in parallel with y'all. Nice. And I'm going to introduce your commanding officer for the LDF. Let me just grab a name for them. What's a good title for them? Are they like a lieutenant? Are they a admiral? What is their rank?
Ranks are tricky.
I feel like we are artificially high rank by virtue of being pilots. Like we're already like
Air Force are
captains.
All officers.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're already.
Yeah, you're a captain, Sean. Your character. Everyone else is probably like a lieutenant or something, like flight lieutenant, so and so.
Yeah. So I'm thinking corporal or.
Are there not military words, but more like if we talk about this being BSG smashes into Camelot? Yeah. Are there like old authority words? Like, is this I don't even know what that would be, but the person
like
Lord
Duchess
or Duke. Yeah, someone could be like a Duke or a Duchess.
A Duke. I don't know if that feels like a thing, and no pressure.
Well,
yeah. What's oh god, I was thinking of Vikings. Jarl and
Earl.
What?
Earl is the equivalent.
Earl, yeah.
Earl King or Earl Queen is also possible. I do believe that Landgrave is a princess equivalent title. I mentioned because I've been looking up titles.
Landgrave?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, they're a Landgrave. That's a rad.
So happy because I don't know if you remember Strash, but in
I do.
Game of Band of Blades, I played Private Landgrave, and she survived all kinds of shit that should have killed her.
Nice.
I got crazy lucky. Oh, that makes me very happy. I know I picked that name because it was on the list, so this is all props back to you, Josh. But
all right, some titles, yo.
Given that this is a new person, and we have chose the crew ability Red Baroness, like, is this a point at which that is pertinent?
That is what prompted me to want to add a new character. Yes.
Great.
Their name is Landgrave Hildar. Hildar being like their family name.
Yeah. It's a great name.
And so it's like the abbreviation would be like LD, Hildar.
We need to write this all up, that's for sure. Stencil it on people's uniforms.
Um,
Hildar, Hildar.
Hildar. I think it can be a dude. And he was a pilot back in the day. He was part of the like first wave of pilots for the LDF, and so he is super fucking famous. He is like the people's champ.
Is he all like square jawed and glossy?
I think he's starting to bald a little bit, but he's got that, like very stern face. Like he's very ruthlessly kept in shape. He's got a lot of scars. He has like, he's missing an arm and his right leg is like a prosthetic. And he only stopped piloting because eventually like all of the engines stopped responding to him and no one quite knows why.
I need to know why.
And so he has a bit of a like, there's like a tragic backstory kind of a deal with this guy. But yeah, he's like super grizzled and tough and competent, and has been like assigned to your unit to like shape you guys the fuck up.
Uh-oh.
Because, some shit went weird with you guys. And so there's like a montage of him, being introduced and like pointing at the map and trying to get you organized. Does anyone...
There's a continuity element that I feel like I need to address for Prophet, which is that like I think Prophet and the engines all arrived at the same time. Like the very first engine came with Prophet, so I think that perhaps she was not fit or in a coma or in some way like held back to be, so she wasn't the first. Like she could. Yeah. This guy has more experience than she does, and there's got to be this guy in the modern era has more experience.
And I think maybe
there's got to be a reason for that.
The LDF existed before everyone got here as well. There was like the great retreat, falling away from the civilized world to end up with just this last place. And
right. So he was fighting like not in engines. He was fighting like aircraft.
He's done all kinds of weird shit.
Yeah.
I think he's played by like, what's his name? Don Cheadle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's a little bit of an older fellow. But they've like, it's like Don Cheadle with some makeup to make his hair gray and make him look a bit more grizzled.
Great.
And yeah, he's like very serious. And is like barking out orders at you guys and trying to like do some like by the book formation stuff.
Because that's gonna help.
And so when y'all meet someone new, so basically each of you will get to tell me something that Landgrave Hildar has heard about each of you, but you don't get to say what he's heard about you. Someone else does.
Yes.
So we can go around.
Oh, right. It's yeah.
Yep. So Sean or Andy, do you guys have something that he has heard about Zyra? Or not Zyra, sorry.
Reyna. I think he's heard that Reyna recovered faster than expected and tried to that Reyna's gone through the same thing that he has, which is that she tried to go back to her engine and it didn't work, and he's experienced that as well. He knows,
right? So he's got like a sympathetic,
right? Like he also can't pilot Magician or any of the other engines for that matter.
And he's piloted a bunch of them.
Yeah. So I think he knows that maybe not everyone knows it. Maybe they did a PR spin, so people just think, yeah, now she's taking, because of her fallen friend, now Reyna's taking over as the chariot. That nobody knows that she couldn't stay in her old engine. And I think he does, or he heard it. Maybe he doesn't.
Yeah, he would find out. This is the kind of thing that he would know about.
Sure.
Great. Strash or Sean, any juicy gossip about Abbott, the rookie?
That's right.
I've got one for Sean. I'm struggling with Abbott.
Okay. Well, I think I mean this is I don't want to pigeonhole you, Andy, so tell me if this is wrong, but I think he's heard that Abbott's a weirdo. Like the other
Yeah.
the other pilots don't like her. They think she's strange. She doesn't fit in. Like I think he's been told like you gotta square that one up and like put her in some lifts too. She's got to be taller for the photos. Like
Yeah.
I think he's been told like, man, this you're gonna have to work on this one. She's an odd duck and she's weird and sort that shit out.
Yeah, like, and I can imagine like this person is weird and like there's this like glint of like sullen, like the lens is like this person is weird and they're being obstinate.
Like Abbott doesn't really want to be here.
Yeah.
She's not committed to the cause.
And he may or may not care about the PR front, but I think he definitely cares about us being
competent,
effective and competent. And so if you seem reluctant to be here, that's an issue I would imagine that's an issue.
Sure.
Yeah, so
great. Yeah, misinterpreted all day long.
And it sounds like maybe this isn't someone new for Prophet.
Yeah, like
the two of them have already met. If you're part of the program from before, and they're the longest standing pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do not get to say what he knows about me, but I'm not going to refute I'm not going to refute that at all. I think Strash had an idea, so.
But yeah, if Strash, you want to put something in, that's cool too.
I think that like our squad has been remarkably successful. I mean, when you watch season 1, we've pulled off some like awesome stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
But especially with your recent stunt with the mechs, like there's a lot of things that he's heard where in particular the higher ups doubt that you have revealed everything and they aren't sure that you're working for the program.
Like you're just using it.
That I might be a traitor. Yeah.
There's some suspicions around you in that regard. P.S. We can roleplay this out during the mission or whatnot, but Reyna refused to put her blood on her mech. We may have to get into a squabble about that if you want.
I don't think that's happened yet because
perfect.
Because I only got one pip on it, and I feel like I've told them about it, but they're still having to advance technology. So I feel like I want to draw that out a little bit. So it's not just immediately like blood doping, right? Like I've just sort of teased it, and it'll come to fruition later.
Great.
And so I think the like one shot that we can flash back to it later if you think there's some important emotional note to hit during this briefing before we then go back to the action. But the Landgrave Hildar like makes a point of going over to Abbott and like kneeling down and putting his hand on your shoulder and being like eye contact and everything and just being like, I want to know I can count on you out there.
And Abbott definitely like cringes at the touch, right? And like the real flat expression turns into kind of not even necessarily a frown, but like she just stares.
Oh, actually, I think I bristle. And when I bristle, I mean my hair obviously gets spiky and everything. Right? And I think I get loud, which, I mean, again, anyone please react as you will, but I know that Abbott is uncomfortable about this and part of my team. And so I think that like, particularly when he does this thing and it's pretty clear that, you know, this is going to be uncomfortable, I bristle. I'm like, oi, did you even read the files? You never touch Abbott. And like, I totally like get in his face and like question his like veracity as a commander and whether he even knows his team and do things that are completely inappropriate in a military structure.
And
nice.
I think Abbott, he apologizes to you.
Whoa. Okay.
Just like, sorry. And then stands up and gets like right in front of Reyna's face and doesn't even say anything. He just fixes you with these like very sad eyes. And
No.
you see like your own sadness reflected in them. There's just this like burnt out, like tired, strained look. He's got the bags under his eyes and everything. He just like is like right up in your face with this, and just says,
Disappointment, my only weakness.
and he just says, "Yeah, dismissed. I'll keep an eye on you from here." And he like is in like the control room for the, you know, the flagship, and y'all go and like suit up and blah blah blah. We can roll engagement.
And while we saw like Reyna move really fast, like run over, then
Yeah.
move really fast, we didn't see Prophet like react. Like she was sitting in her chair and she sort of sat up a little straighter, but like other than that, we didn't see her move. But when like Reyna turns around, Prophet's there. Like she didn't like move fast. She just happened to be in the place she needed to be, which was just there to like pull Reyna back if she was going too far, but didn't, because she wasn't. Because like, you know, like, but she was just almost as though she was in two places at once. She was just there.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think
but didn't like say anything. Sorry.
I think I just want one beat where when Landgrave is inches from my eyes, like some of that sadness is reflected, and my face falls a little at like when I'm not facing anyone, but like the moment you know, they pull away here, I like close my eyes and I inhale, and the moment that I turn around, I'm like, ha! I'm down a week and everything is falling apart. Well, I'm back now. And I like march out with straight feet and like very like vigorous gestures and like confidence. And I start like telling people what to do, even though they've clearly already done it or know what they're doing way better than I do.
Fasten that spit. Yeah.
Pull those levers. You just, yeah.
Don't you know you're supposed to do the thing? I don't know what it does, but they always wave it like this.
This is clearly an important part of
As Reyna leaps and bounds and frolics and orders out the doorway, and I imagine Prophet follows, sort of.
Yeah.
Or is there a pause? Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, because Reyna was like right behind her. So Prophet was right behind her. So when Reyna like runs off, she literally like runs past Prophet, who does not get in her way or anything like that. Like, it's not. But earlier you were saying like there's rushed up, people are running along. When Prophet goes to move, there's like 5 people that run past her, and she's just like walking with determination to her engine. And yet I don't know, did you want to interact with her on the way?
It was just a matter of like making eye contact with Prophet, as basically all 3 of us are there in this moment.
Yep.
Of like someone has challenged our group, and just like acknowledging that without like, oh hi, there you are, without any words, just like a nod to you.
Yeah.
And
I think that nod, at least for Prophet, ends with like, and not verbally, but like a nod that like check in, and also, and now we got to go to work, right? Like,
yeah. Now I'm ready to roll that engagement roll.
Nice.
Okay. So who wants to be the roller?
I think Andy wants to be the roller.
Oh, apparently that's me.
You just said you wanted to roll. You wanted to roll
Great.
that engagement roll.
I'm in. How I gotta click buttons now. Ugh.
Clickety
So,
click.
you know, this one roll, as with engagement in Blades and other games like it, it's going to let us know how things are going. It elides all the tedious setup, planning, and lead-in. And so there are a bunch of things that we consider when making this roll. So the crew starts with 1 die for hope and modifies that starting pool based on the following factors. Is the mission particularly heroic or noble?
I feel like before we ask that, I want to ask, is there the whole, even though we're not doing the meticulous details, is there the whole like mission type and plan to go along with it, like assault deception that Blades has, or do we just go right to like what we're doing?
We talked about selecting
it's a Leviathan fight.
It's a Leviathan fight. Okay.
Yeah. Fend off a Leviathan attack. So there's already been all the klaxons and everything, right? Like something is coming. We don't quite know what. They haven't identified it.
Right.
And so yeah, that's what we're on about, is fending off a Leviathan attack on the Bastion. So something has come out of the sea and is like, I imagine there are these like wards and barriers that kind of encapsulate
I want to say yes, because I want to say that the effect of beating back the Leviathans is that their rage is redoubled, and that like some external defense was just like crushed.
This is like an extra bad thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. I mean, yeah, you're trying to save all of humanity from it. Like often, yes, you will be a very heroic or noble mission. If you just fucked off to go explore stuff, maybe not, you know, but
Okay, cool.
in this case, yeah. Does the mission's goal or methods reflect the darkness inside our characters?
Can we? What's the darkness inside our characters specifically? Is it a mechanism, or is it just like?
So a good thing to look at is your Eclipse prompt, which gives you a sense of like what out the box your character's dark side is about.
Mm-hmm.
For the Guardian, it's about how you're sworn to protect people, but they're unworthy of that protection. And it, like,
I belong at the front leading the fight. Well, I'll definitely be doing that.
Yeah, like there's a really clear path for your character, Strash, to go into that prompt. The Strangers stuff is all about dissociating from people and choosing some like tangible, sensible like task to do to the exclusion of all else. And the Time Travelers is a lot about fatalism and no longer relying on like plans and predictions, but just like giving into intuition and simplicity. So they're all generally like inversions of what your character's archetype is about. This is something where I don't like, to my mind, we're not there yet because we don't know a lot about what the specific darkness of these characters would be. And also like, no one has been like, I have to kill Leviathans to get revenge. Like there would be opportunities for y'all to go super edgy with it that you haven't taken. So I'm just going to say this is probably no.
Cool.
So we don't lose a die. Is the mission following through on details from the crew's preparations? Not really.
Oh, okay.
Our
prep was pretty minor. I think we only got that one.
We only did the one thing, and it didn't really work out so great. So I don't think there's a lot of room to justify.
And though it wasn't a long-term project, it was kind of framed as one. So I don't feel like it's done.
Is the darkness well defended here or particularly strong against this approach? I don't think so. They've sent something out to you. It's not like you're going to their nest or whatever that they have. Does this mission center around one of your friends? Or are any of your rivals or enemies working against you? Again, no, I don't think we've really established.
Yeah. I feel like we need to do more.
Yeah, like those will come in further down the line. This one's kind of just out of the box. And then any other elements that we want to consider due to circumstances, events in the world, etc. Y'all are at tier 0 for prep, so I'm going to steal a die away because you're doing a tier 1 mission and tier 0. And then other than that, I'm good. So you're rolling 1 die.
Cool.
Great.
There are no bad engagement rolls.
Doo-dah, doo-dah. So the next good fun thing is if I'm going to roll engagement, I need help finding where the magic button to do that is.
It would just be a fortune roll, which should be down at the bottom of all the roll buttons. Position and effect, you can just wave through. Just do like risky standard. It doesn't matter. We're not going to factor it in.
It's right under flow, Andy.
Thank you.
It is.
There, thank you.
And you're rolling a single die.
All right, I know you just told me a bunch of stuff, but I was looking for a button. So
you can just wave through position and effect because we're not going to factor them in. So you can just be like, yeah, sure, risky, standard, whatever.
Great.
And then, rolling a single die.
Thank you.
There are no bad engagement.
Doo-dah.
So that's a 1.
The best roll you can get.
Correct.
So just for everyone's information, 1 to 3 is a bad result. You're in a desperate position when the action starts. The darkness has moved against you. It's a trap, ambush, or counterattack.
Doo-dah.
And
cool,
I think we get some long, like Denis Villeneuve style, like aerial establishing shots of these massive, like stone monoliths emerging from the ocean, and there's like these huge roiling, what's the word? The maelstrom of water, where it's like it's going down the drain. So it's as if each of these massive monoliths has a huge hole at the bottom of it, and the ocean draining out into it. So it never actually touches the stone; it just like closes in around them. So there are a bunch of these arrayed in a circle around this island, which has the ancient fortress that humanity is holed up in, which is this, you know, huge kind of pyramid-y thing set into a mountain on the island. Our floating fortress has like slowly, you know, traveled out to the edge of this ring, and hammering against it with this like incredibly deep rumbling, but also like really distorted and strange sound as if through like water. There is, let me see, let me just double check my thing here. Yeah, so it's like a massive, like a head taller than all of your leviathans at its shoulder, like cat body with an impassive sculpted human face with a great big long beard hanging under it that like braids into its like belly fur.
Yeah.
And the face is very like wide and round. The eyes are set really far apart and are enormous. They're like these big glassy orbs that are like deep black, and you can like see there's like depth to them. You like, if you were to like look into them. Yeah, this weird cat thing is just like rearing up on its hind legs and smashing into this like invisible bubble that's just outside the edge of these massive stone monoliths. And there's like this horrible shrieking, like rippling sound every time it hits it. And y'all like get like dropped from the floating fortress down into the water, and there's like a cool shot of y'all like landing that's filmed super low, so you look all impressive. And then like right as y'all are setting up to like surround and engage this thing, from inside the ring underwater emerges a second one. And we'll just pick things up there. The second one doesn't have a beard. It has like a halo of fire around its like big face. And yeah, they're like these cats that are as tall at the shoulder as your like humanoid,
as our engines
are.
Oof. Friends.
And yeah, one of them just like splooshes up out of the ocean it's surrounded by this big halo of fire, and like makes this horrible metal on metal screeching sound as it opens its like stone mouth.
Nice.
Oh dear.
I feel like a collateral damage should be immediate and imminent. Like as soon as it pops up, there's like some of the, because it's inside the wall.
It's inside the barrier. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, there's some buildings that are just immediately destroyed.
Well, yeah, it kicks up a huge wave that's going to probably flatten something over on the shore. And like I'm imagining, so there's like the island in the middle. The ring is like way the fuck out, but there's this incredibly long tide flat kind of thing where the water doesn't get any deeper than like waist deep for the engines, that goes out like a couple miles. And then there's this massive ring of these completely enormous monolithic black stone wards. We talked about there being some kind of weird like satellite defense matrix overhead of what we will call here, I made a note of the 7 sages, which I think is like ancient, or I mean not ancient, super fancy modern satellites that they built. They only have 7 of them left. And so there's like all of this defense stuff. The island itself is like a peaked mountain, as if someone had dropped something in the water, and the water had formed that like peak that ripples do, where it's like a perfect kind of weird parabolic cone. And then there's actually a floating orb that's suspended directly above the peak of the thing. And then yeah, these like 13 stone monoliths arranged in a circle around it that act as wards, that no one has ever been able to like figure out how the fuck they work or what they are made of or any of that stuff. And you're out in this like space in between.
Nice.
So I know what I'd like to do.
Well, I think we should be cognizant of time, because we're getting close. I don't know if we want to do like the initial salvo. I mean, I think we've got some time, but I just don't want to jump too far.
Yeah, we're not going to get through this whole thing
Yeah.
tonight.
But yeah, I think so. That said, Josh, go punch a thing. I'm sorry. I don't think we're gonna finish this mission tonight. But I don't think that means you can't punch a thing.
We got you something to punch.
I don't think I punch actually. I think we're airdropping, and I think that Reyna is actually slower than the two of you for two reasons. One of which is that I'm still not 100% used to piloting Chariot, and the second one is that I was probably still too busy like issuing orders and stuff when you guys are like already in and everything's activated. I'm still like at the feet of my mech, like doing a final speech about like how I'm back or something.
In the camera crew, there's like a bunch of people holding cameras and like zooming in, being like, "Yeah, look how awesome."
And I'm like, make sure you get this. And then I like run towards the mech and like I jump towards it and call out its name, and it actually like snatches me up and like shoves me in its chest cavity because like we pilot from inside where its heart is supposed to be or something.
Yeah.
The Hangman 8.
Right. So like I was trying to get to this like through this whole like startup procedure and make it fancy because it's like my first entrance into the mech, which they're gonna make a clip show of or some nonsense. So I think what I want to do is when that thing emerges and that like wave starts heading towards the buildings, I'm dropping towards the location of the first one. And as we mentioned, when we merge with our mechs, they take on certain properties of ours, right? Like there's a indicator that our Leviathan traits and their like mechness is actually put together.
There's like an interplay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like Chariot gains like a mane of fire and like, fire out of like the back of its hooves and stuff. And I think that like as I'm dropping and I see this thing like rippling out, I want to dash right past it and say nope and stop like the coastline from getting demolished.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna make a
move. I'm gonna land and try and do like a counter wave to stop its like assault type.
Great. So this sounds like we're doing like a micro flashback.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna charge you 1 stress for it. It's a very plausible flashback.
All right.
But yeah, you can totally do that if you want.
Cool.
So yeah, the one like emerges and there's this huge like water spout as it comes up and is like, because it creates like a little like steam tunnel as it burrowed through because it's on fire, so it has this like huge gout of like steam and stuff that creates this big wave that starts crashing in towards the shore. And you land to
go break that wave.
Yeah.
Nice.
What are you rolling there, friendo?
Oh, defy. I mean,
I figured I just don't want to assume.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So I've only got 1 die now. Talk me through some mechanics. Are there? What are their things? Is there like?
What are the ways to get extra dice?
Yes.
So you can push yourself or take a dark bargain. We can talk about whether or not your action aligns with your engine's virtues or impulses, which I believe for it are powerful and tormented. Certainly this feels like a powerful move. So it can give you an assisting die, because that's there's like the slot, if you will, of push yourself or dark bargain. There's the help slot, and then there's like any additional dice that you might gain can factor in. So yeah, I feel like you can get 1 for powerful from your engine, and then if you want to push yourself, cool. Dark bargain here. I'll just give an easy one. You're not used to piloting the Chariot and you landed a little weird, and you're just going to do some damage to it, and it's going to lose 1 strength out of its total of 3, but it'll give you an extra die.
How does strength on mechs recover?
So you can help them recover the way you would help like a person recover, and if you fill their clock, they regain 1 strength. If their strength is reduced to 0, they are inoperable.
I see.
And would need to be recovered from the field if you're like outside of the bastion or whatever else.
I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna say no, and I'm not gonna push myself. Well, actually, let's ask this: what position am I in?
Fair point. So, are you transcended or not?
Let me ask you. Like, I'm used to these shows usually being where I don't know. Like, should I be? Does that make sense for this?
So if you're transcended, that's going to improve your position and effect negotiation considerably. You are still piloting an engine, so that helps. But if you don't transcend, I'm just consulting my chart here.
Well, our engagement says we're in a desperate position.
Yeah,
right?
so desperate position is the expected thing as well for not being transcended, because you're against a magical threat of a Leviathan. And I would think limited. So you're desperate limited. If you transcend, you can be desperate standard, possibly even desperate great.
Yeah, I think we're going for it. So my transcendent power is that as long as I take defensive actions to protect someone or something, it doesn't count for my limit of duration for transcendence.
Yeah, it won't eat up one of your 4.
Cool. Actions. And when I transcend, we know that the mechanism that I'm piloting like gains organic traits, like musculature appears on it and stuff like that, right? Like it stops being just stone.
I feel like for the fire to come out too, it kind of like that trait will also be exaggerated. But yeah, we talked about these things like
I have ideas. Are you ready?
Coming alive when you transcend. Yeah.
So yeah, I think like it lands and it's like a centaur on all 4s. Like it's got 4 limbs on the ground and then like 2 limbs in the air, and like that wave is coming towards me and building. And I think that there's just a moment where I'm like, I guess there's no time for pleasantries, is there? And then like the transcendent sequence like ignites and like this thing like actually stands up so that it's got like 4 limbs and it's standing on 2 legs. And like fire erupts out of like the bottoms of like the secondary set of limbs and like turns into like flaming wings, and like a pair pops out of its back and like a pair out of the top. So I've got like 6 wings of fire, and I'm like, do you know who you're messing with? I am the best pilot in the Corps. So yeah, that's totally where I'm gonna go.
Love it. I think I love the idea of just like bellowing out, like.
And there's this wave that's like taller than you are coming at you, right? This like enormous tsunami.
Right. Yeah. So, how are you actually gonna break the wave? Is it gonna be like with a splash where you hit the water really hard to form the counter wave, or you can like slam it, like shoulder the wave, or like what's it?
So I think what happens is actually, so I have to yell through loudspeakers. Because human voices don't carry out of these things, but like Chariot roars at the same time, and then like I fold all the wings and I actually do like some sort of like crazy fire beam attack, and I'm just gonna vaporize the water into steam.
Yeah, there's like this big arc of fire that flies out.
Yeah, I throw out it, and it like they actually named the move and like put up like little flashy.
There's like a
fire
little
blast.
Yeah.
It's simulcast or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yes, this is her special fire wave technique that we saw her employ with the mega. Amazing that she's able to pull it off the chariot. All the play-by-play. Yeah. Okay. Great. So you're desperate. Great. I think because yeah, this is like fire against a big body of water. It's probably cool.
Awesome.
Desperate great.
So let me double check my power real quick. I took the. Oh no, that's resistance rolls. Okay, I'm good. So 2 dice, right?
Yeah, you get a bonus die from it being from your engine, essentially giving you a free help.
F this. I'm gonna push myself. I want a good roll on this.
Well, is your fame, identity, or reputation at stake right now?
Oh, I mean, I just literally put my reputation on the line by telling it who I am and what I'm doing.
So you're the best. So that gives you an extra die as well.
Awesome. Let's do this. Dice.
Right.
Believe, fam. Oh no, it's the worst day.
Oh, that's the worst. Oh my goodness. Oh, those were bad dice.
Okay, so where to begin? I mean, first of all, so like the fire goes out and it evaporates like a portion of the water, but it's like there's like the shape of the wave, and you make a dent in it. It's like a deeper C shape. But then it just like crashes. It makes the wave fold early instead of breaking on the shore. It just breaks on your like wave thing, and so you just get like pounded into the ground by this massive amount of water. It damages the. It just and you're like you had just been like rah with the thing, so it's like your chest is exposed. It gets bent over backwards. The cockpit fills with water, so you're drowning. The engine itself is going to take damage as well. So 2 consequences. One is that, I mean, we'll just make a clock for you drowning. It's going to be a 4 count.
So we're going to have a conversation about this right before that, before anything else happens. Because I believe we took the ability called Heavy Gear. Because if I am transcended, and my resistance roll should be able to negate this harm, I believe.
But Strash, I'm not dealing harm.
No? Can I not protect my...
Well, I think you said you're also dealing harm to the engine, right?
Yes.
Yes. So you can resist the engine losing 1/3 of its remaining strength.
Okay. That's fine.
But then there's also this clock drowning. It's going to be half full. It's a 4 count. When it fills,
I'm less concerned about that. I'm far more concerned about my engine right now.
Naturally.
Great.
Cool. So let me fix my engine first.
So this is violence that you're resisting. So it's going to be Tsundere. So you can go ahead and resist.
Now I have a strange question. It says if I'm. Oh no, it's only teammates. Never mind. Boo. Boo.
Okay, so it costs you 2 stress to not have your engine get messed up.
I'm okay with that. Poor engine. I feel for you.
And so the cockpit still fills with water, but you manage to like roll with the hit instead of just getting totally wrecked by this wave crashing on you. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
What is the inside of the cockpit like? As we get this shot of you like trying not to die inside of it.
What do we look like when we're transcended inside the cockpits?
What do we look like when we're transcended inside the cockpits? What does Raina look like?
That's when your Leviathan aspect was at its strongest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm actually like, so usually when we're piloting, I'm imagining us like shoving our hands into these like holes where we like grip the controls and like our legs under them. So like partially like when we move our arms, like the whole body rotates or whatever, because that makes no sense. But it's totally in genre.
Yeah.
So there are like modern like controls, like joysticks and buttons and toggles and displays and stuff inside of like tacked onto this weird like stone pod that you're in.
Yes.
So this, like,
but I think like what we see is like I think what we see is like like it looks at that, like, so there's this heart, right, like this stone pod, and inside it we do have all those displays, but like when I'm transcended, like my hands come out of the controls and like I'm just essentially like standing there or floating there, and like my like I'm just glowing, like my flesh is white, and like you can't even see like the usual gear and like piloting stuff that's on me. Like I'm just like a being of fire and light, right? Like obviously humanoid, but like not, you know.
Yeah, so all the fire that is issuing forth from this thing comes from you, like it originates with you.
So I think that there's just this moment where like the water is coming up, and like my eyes jerk open from this like partially meditative state, and like I start like struggling for like grabbing something to like pull myself up to like catch the last breath of air. And I realized that like as I'm doing that, like Chariot's doing nothing. It's just like floating in the water because I'm not connected to it correctly. And I think that what I'm gonna try and do is just like I'm gonna like try and remind myself of who I am, and like actually what I say is like, remember that you're not just like I'm holding on to the wall, and like as I'm like trying to catch the last breath, I say like we kind of hear my thoughts in my head, right? And like what I say is like, remember, you're not just human anymore. And I like let go of the wall, and like as I sink back down into the water, I'm gonna like close my eyes and go back into that meditative trance, and I'm just gonna try and like burn away and steam all the water and like reconnect with my mech.
Okay, so this is you resisting the other consequence as well.
Oh yeah, I totally am.
Before we resist, Josh, I want to ask an order of operations question.
Mm-hmm.
When time is being folded, as a player, if time is going to be shifted, what is the right time to do that in? Should I say, wait, before you do that, I want to do a thing. It's in the middle of your action. Or should I say, cool, that's what happened, except for now in a different reality, a different thing happened. Because I have a transcendent abilities when someone is in harm, I can pull them out of that harm and then put them in a position to attack their foes. So I have this idea about how I could use that ability, but I haven't said I've transcended yet. I plan to, but I don't know if I need to have already had said it. And B, I don't know if I should wait for Strash to do all this stuff and then say it, or whether I should be like, hold on.
I mean, so flashbacks are still a thing in Girl by
Yeah.
Moonlight. So, and especially if you're the time traveler. I mean, we've already had some dice at the table in terms of Strash resisting a bunch of things that are happening to his character.
Right.
And so I kind of feel like maybe save that for the
Another
next bad thing that
the next
happens.
bad thing,
Or if
sure.
you want to use that to try to solve like this huge wave that's still barreling towards the last place where there are alive humans in the whole world.
Well, it's particularly when a friend is in danger.
Oh, right, because yours is personal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't see myself so much as saving. The reason why I'm asking now is because you're about to resist the drowning, and so I didn't see myself in the position to save Chariot. No, why am I? Yeah, Chariot.
Yeah.
But I do see myself in a position to help Reyna with the whole like being drowned thing, or I theoretically could be. Or I could just say like, keep going, it's cool, you've got stress, and then we'll use it another time too. That's fine. I'm not like glued on it, but I'm like, I do have a friend in danger.
Yeah, I would say just jump in before the roll. So yeah, if you want to use it to offset this drowning thing and then set Reyna up to do a different thing as a follow-up, basically, like guarantee a good follow-up action as well. That's what the move is for. So yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. Is that cool with you, Trash?
Oh yeah, that's totally
Awesome.
great.
So I want to kind of like see that same thing, like the thing filling up and you like sinking back down into it, and then like there's no this is the desired effect I want to have. There's no like we don't see you come back up, and like the cockpit is totally full, and then like the built-in shunting systems finally take effect, and like the water drains out, and that's when we both reappear in, that's when a moment later you sort of flicker back into existence in your cockpit, totally emptied out
and like in a different place instead of being like knocked over and floundering in the
Yeah,
bay.
right,
sure.
right,
On your feet nearby.
right.
I ask of you only one thing, Sean. You gotta tell me what it looks like when you transcend.
I know. Well, yeah. Let's see.
Because this is a transcendent ability, right? So you got.
Oh, it's a transcendent ability. Absolutely, it's totally a transcendent ability. Cool. So, Prophet doesn't use the modern technology to pilot the things, because that didn't exist when she doesn't know how to use it. And so there's like these two stone pillars that are there that like everyone else just like rests gear, like they pile stuff on, and she puts her hands on them. That's how she knows how to pilot. She doesn't know how to teach anybody how to do it. They figured out other ways. It's fine, but she grabs them, and the blue that we saw, like the blue coloring in her jumpsuit that we saw glowing through her jumpsuit earlier, we see that blue start like veins coming through her, covering over her face until she becomes entirely like a basalt, like rock formation herself, with this blue glow going through her. And we see that where her hands were previously on the stone pillars, now they're like part of the she no longer has like arms per se. They're now like built into the pillars rather than and when she opens her mouth, there's just like this cosmic blue glow coming from the inside, and she starts spinning around in this chamber that isn't supposed to spin, but nevertheless these two pillars spin around, and you see magician like curl up its 6 arms and spin into like turn to like a drill bit where like the 6 arms like form different bits of a bit, and it starts I was going to go down, but instead it sort of spins up and it's just flashing for a moment, and then as we cut back, I'm in it, and Reyna is in the magician as well. Like we're both in the cockpit for a moment. We're both kind of wrapped in our transcendent forms of earth and fire, yeah. I still think I have to push and roll to do this, right? Like it isn't just an automatic thing. Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to describe too far, but that's
we'll kill that consequence, and then you can make a roll that's essentially like weirdly in the space of like we negate a consequence and you roll a setup action for someone else to then follow through on.
Yep.
So I have completely eliminated the drowning clock. It is no longer a thing.
Cool.
What action is this, Sean?
Oh, that's really great. That's a really good question. I like the word flow, but I don't know if that's what I'm doing. Flow is when you move with grace to adapt to your circumstances. You might leave across the graph steadily. You might act in accordance with others' expectations. I don't feel like it's the last part, but I do think it is the first part. When you flow, you move,
I feel like you're like moving through time.
Yes,
in this elegant way to rescue your friend. Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, and visually from the outside, it looks like the magician is like going towards Chariot, but then it sort of flickers out of existence for a moment, and will return.
Because you're like the drilling is through the fabric of time.
Exactly.
And then you just like leave the Chariot in your wake in a different place.
Yes. Yeah. When Chariot comes back, it will be in another place and ready to attack or ready to do something. Okay, cool. Yikes. I don't know if it's a push, but I feel like this is clever. I feel like this is like a trick to pull Chariot out of this situation or to pull Reyna out of the situation, and
that seems fair. Yeah, you're like manipulating circumstances and making things weird. So yeah, cool. you can get a helping die from the magician.
Cool.
This seems suitably in line with its idiom of being a cool
wizard. I'm pulling off a magic trick, right? Seems plausible. And because I had to push to use this ability, so I spent two stress.
So you get a die from pushing yourself.
So I get a die from pushing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I assume that we're still in desperate position.
I don't see how this isn't desperate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to your effect can be standard here. Yeah. You will effectively set up your
teammate. I'm flow, and I've got desperate, standard, and I have 2 bonus dice.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Let's see what happens. Okay. Awesome. I can take that.
It's okay. We are in desperate, so even a 5 is
that's fine. No,
a bad thing. Where do you pop out after pulling this maneuver is the question I have for you.
This is what I would love, but it doesn't work. So my initial concept of this was that Chariot is like messed up right now, and so what I would do is have what I would do is have Reyna in magician with me, but Reyna can't pilot magician. Like it's not
it's not an option.
It's not an option. But I want to know if I can push that, because I feel like it would play very well into the and also I don't know if it's something you'd like, Josh, but I think it would play very well into the conflict of it's like I would be happy to be like trapped in time, and instead of returning instead of returning Reyna to Chariot, she takes my place in the Magician and can pilot it because I'm like stuck in this weird time vortex. Like I'm cooperating with her. I don't know if it's like an absolute hard rule you can never break, or if but I'm essentially saying like I offer to just like take myself out of the fight as a horrible consequence. And it sort of makes a little more sense that Chariot is in fact washed ashore and Reyna is in Magician, which she knows how to pilot so well, and it's working because I'm fueling it. I don't know if that's sort of offering my own antagonism.
How do you feel about this, Strash?
Yeah.
I'd like to not let our city be completely destroyed by Leviathans by taking one of my teammates completely out of the equation.
I was going to say the Guardian.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I
feel like it can just be the like everything all together. The Chariot with Reyna piloting it is just like boop, it's just in a different place now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need to pull her out of it.
Okay.
And then so you intended to land in a certain spot for it, but where would you want to be?
I would want to be side by side with the Chariot right behind that beast. Like we could we could both like tag
or
team
something. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, instead you're on the wrong side of the barrier. Nice. Right next to the it's like your position relative to it is the same as what you intended, but it's just the wrong cat. So you're behind the other thing.
Nice.
As it's like just like tearing into this barrier, and then it like turns its big round eyes and like sees you, and the face that has been in like a placid like neutral expression like smiles, and these large like teeth come down at it. But we'll cut away from you.
Nice.
Because you set up your teammates to like do a thing, so we can look at that first. Maybe involving both Abbott and Reyna doing some teamwork, perhaps.
Abbott, you should tell me what it looks like when you pilot your mech.
Mm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Describing things. That's not what a team do.
It's so hard.
It's hard to keep up with all of the many things that are going on. When Abbott and the Hangman land, it is given like the lack of like it's a very like stone plummet, just almost directly down, right? Just like with and maybe that's just a reflection of the day. And in the process of like rolling to their feet and sort of like having limbs sort of come back together with that like ka-ching like bits and pieces and like shaking out and putting themselves back together, the two of them as a unit, right? Abbott will transcend, and externally what you see is that all of these kachinky, like clunky chain movements become much more fluid, and the Hangman is wreathed in like an abrupt and like massive, like at the head of a giant fog bank, with some like everything is not that the Hangman wasn't already soaking wet, but is covered in like frost rime. And there's the wreathing coils of something also interplaying with the chains. You can't really tell anymore. And now, being transcended, the Hangman is in fact a figure made of flesh, and there are chains that move in and out from under their flesh and their wounds.
Ow.
Yeah. They're still a kind of a strange, like that gray cast color, but made of flesh and somehow not a lot of blood.
So Sean, have we seen you pull this transcendence trick before, where you like time blink us?
I don't think so. I think this is new. I was even thinking about the visuals about it a little bit more, where it looked like I was drilling towards the Chariot, like I was flying towards Chariot, and as I passed through Chariot, like somehow we like superimposed for a moment, and this all sort of happened, and then I popped back out. We popped back out at a different place. But yeah, no, I'd like to say this is new, because I mean it's new to the game. So
great.
So I don't think I have a plan or I'm saying anything. I just end up in this place and I'm a little frozen. What does Abbott do? I didn't see this one coming. I was dealing with drowning.
Sure. So I get the impression that the two of you are flanking. You have wound up so that you are near the Sad Cat Sphinx Beardo friend on the outside of the barrier.
That's
Just
where
Prophet.
Prophet has ended up, but the chariot is next to the one on the inside. So the two of them end up accidentally getting separated.
Great.
But you could step in to help Chariot.
Absolutely. And our unbearded friend just cast a big wave at the shore.
So there's this massive wave still rolling towards the shore.
Great.
Presumably to, drown and kill many people.
Right. No more food for anybody.
Do we want to stop that? Do we want to stop that by somehow hitting it with this cat person? I don't know.
Well, assuredly, this cat person is lost and confused about what they're doing, and we're in a period of mourning, and maybe they would understand that and come back another day.
Okay, but what's the plan?
Ask them to come back another day.
Oh, you want to try and talk to a cat person?
We're down a team member, and we're still in mourning, and they're interrupting. This isn't how you do that. They're lost and confused and sad too. I don't know why they're here. Why would they? They probably have a home that they need to go to.
Sounds like you leading a reason with them action. And
just that everything is sad and miserable, and why are we fighting? We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We're the same as they are. We're just in a position of being everyone is sad and sorrowful. I assume that they are enraged and lost under all that rage. And
is this you empathizing with them?
Yeah, I mean, we're the same as they are.
Cool.
That's what.
And what is your outcome that you would want from this action? Is this a way of do you want to gather information, or do you want to have this give them pause, make them is this about getting them to feel your sadness and to relate to you on an emotional level?
Yeah, absolutely. The more that we can be, I don't need information in the minute so much as I want to be their peers versus I imagine so we imagine them as these faceless monstrosities, and I imagine that you can reverse that where they also perceive
that you are the same to them.
Yeah, and so can we please be in some be seen, be peers, be known?
Yeah, totally. So you want to so this action is to change the character of your confrontation with it to being but talking it down and all this kind of cool. Yes, great.
That's what I want to do.
We can do that. And so you're using empathy to do this.
Yes, that sounds like a great plan.
Is anyone else on board with this plan, and do they want to help?
I don't think I can. Because I've just had the worst day of my life. I landed, I used my big move, it failed miserably, and now there's weird timey-wimey nonsense, and my friend is trying to talk to the monster.
That sounds like helping in some ways, the part where even if it's just being sad and sorrowful, right? The fact that you have sorrow and are individuous, but if you don't feel like you can in fact support that and are flatly confused, right? I get it. But that's very in alignment with Abbott's Ipsos' message.
I don't know how to communicate that to a monster. I think is where it is I don't see them as people. I see them as the enemy.
So maybe this is something that y'all have an argument about later.
Awesome.
But Ipsos is going to try it right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good.
Great.
Super good. And go ahead.
I'm wondering, this begs the question of what our communication, how we communicate, if at all, in this space, and how that works when we're transcendent. I imagine we had lots of cool techie gear that helped us, but now that we're all rock creatures and fog creatures and flame creatures, I don't know if that stuff works. But I mean, I could see you perhaps visually, like I could see the gesture that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I could mime that with the one that I'm facing, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a way to help. Although I think if I help, I trauma out.
There's definitely room. Well, so you don't trauma out in this game, Sean. Instead, you like are at a precipice, and we roll for eclipse. And so basically, anytime you take, when you hit max, or anytime you would take stress after that, you make a roll with your worst resistance. If you can get a 6, you're fine. On a 4 to 5, someone has to spend a link or push themselves to keep you from going all sad and crazy. And then on a 1 to 3, you fall into eclipse. You have to start playing into your prompt, and then your stress counts down from 9 to 0. And then once you hit 0, you're done so forever.
Cool. You're done so forever.
Yeah, you're like dead or unable to be a magical girl or whatever. We negotiated that on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, basically there's this like very elastic kind of precipice state that you can enter, and then once it flips over, you're on like a doom clock until you can get out of eclipse.
Awesome. Well, let's try and get there. So I'm at 7 stress right now, so I won't hit that. I won't be on the precipice yet, but
you'll be at 8.
So I'll go to 8. And
so here's the thing that Ipsos does, which and the Hangman, which is they start like it's a morning howl, like as a way of communicating. This thing is like they're leaving themselves kind of open, and are like all of the sorrow in one big unending like roiling howl of fog and ice, and that's the baseline of that communication. Very primal and
primal scent, like howl of sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That just rings out, and it's like on this enormous scale. Cool.
Awesome. I think the magician like raises up her 6 arms in like stop, like as it maybe it's gonna attack.
I'm imagining each one in a like symbolic gesture of like peace or whatever. Like there's like the peace, and then there's the like Jesus hand, the like blessing hand, but you have like 6 of them, so you can cover all the bases.
Yeah, so you can do all of them.
Do all the things.
Yeah.
So good.
Cool. So that's how I will help.
That's how you're helping. Great.
Love it.
So I think in terms of bookkeeping stuff, this definitely aligns with the Hangman's wounded tag, so it won't cost you a transcendent action.
Great.
We've spent 1 of profits.
How many transcendent actions do we have?
You get a total of 4.
Okay. So I'm down in my lower left where I see stress and transcendence. I bumped that up to 1. Is that correct?
Spent 1 of 4. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so that's the only like bookkeeping stuff I see. So you've got an extra die from help. Is it fair to call this the follow-up action on your previous move, Sean? Or do you want to?
I'm fine with that, yeah, because I think the way in which my move catches them off guard is that they expected Chariot to be like crushed, and instead Chariot is fine, and they're behind them and thrown off, and they're and also I've moved inadvertently, just sort of like throwing them off, which gives them this moment for the Hangman to
make this statement,
to make this communication that otherwise maybe not be possible if we were all chucking tidal waves and fireballs at each other.
Sure. Ruining all the fun.
Great. Okay, so that's 2 dice from outside sources for you.
Great.
Andy.
And effect at this point is limited? Or where are we at this juncture on all of that?
Your position is still desperate.
Absolutely.
Things haven't quite stabilized yet. I think after this might be where we pivot into a less horrible position.
Yeah.
Your effect is going to be standard unless you have anything that pushes it beyond that.
I don't have anything at this juncture that escalates that.
You could trade the follow-through die to be effect as well, I think is legitimate.
The follow-through sets up, if the follow-through is
it always improves position, right?
It improves effect or position. You can
so I think in this case
I
think it improves effect in this case. That y'all are there like both positioned to like assuage these angry creatures. So you can have great effect you've only got one bonus die from whatever it was.
No,
from the
two
help.
bonus dice. One from help and one from the virtue.
No, that was it didn't cost me on the transcend.
doing
log.
Didn't cost
So-
any minutes.
So
Okay.
I'm at 2. So I'm gonna hold on to the second die in the minute and stick with standard. And then the thing I have a question about is I have a link to the hangman. And how would I utilize that in this scenario? Is that an appropriate place? I don't.
So let me just double check all your options for social link. So social link,
Yeah.
you can spend it at any time for
Yep.
the following effects. You can use it to recover stress.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it to shrug off harm. You can use it to get a helping die without them needing to have any like particular reason or method to help you.
Great.
Just like get a die because it's like your relationship with them helping you.
Yeah.
And then it can save you from falling into a corpse.
Great. So I'm going to get a helping die. I'm going to burn that with the hangman, given our earlier
'cause you
storytelling and
told it that story. So yeah, you get essentially 2 helping dice.
great.
Total. One from, I'm still getting used to all the names. One from the magician being piloted by Prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, when you like going to do this, like there's none of the usual, like you got to like haul the controls or like move the thing. It like gleefully wants to do this exact same thing. You're kind of just letting the hangman let out its own sorrow and
Mm-hmm.
rage and everything.
Very much.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think.
So
All right.
Andy, at one point you said you're only going to take standard effect, but the positioning can't help with a die. It only helps either to improve position or put back. So you can either go risky, standard, or desperate great. Those are kind of
That was too many things at once, and I don't understand what the impact is. So
Sure.
can you tell me again different or just again?
Absolutely.
So here, I'll paraphrase.
Yeah.
Prophet did that whole fancy time manipulation trick
Yeah.
to set up her teammate's next action, which is now
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And the setup doesn't give you a die. I misquoted. It actually gives you either better position or better effect.
Got it. So I need to go back and change my effect, and I will have a single bonus die because the bonus die is not an option. So I can move the effect from was it standard to great?
Yeah, exactly. And you'll have a helping die from Prophet, and then a helping die from your engine, but not then a third bonus die. So you're just getting 2 bonus dice, and you're getting desperate great.
Desperate. Great. Bonus dice. 2 bonus dice, not 3.
Not 3. Yeah,
All right.
we got there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
6.
And so yeah, there's
Nailed
this
it.
howl of pain, and you're like making these various signs of like assuaging hand gestures, and the smile that the one cat was making at you where its teeth were growing turns into a frown, like a almost like the tragedy mask kind of.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, yeah, it has ears, and the ears go back,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that's inside the bubble like joins in the howl and has this very like wolf-like howl that it echoes the hangman's howl with.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the cry like, you know, trails off and stops and like echoes throughout, and there's still the sound of like the raging like maelstroms of these, you know, near each of these huge monoliths. There's still the wave kind of like rolling behind you all.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
That's
this
nice.
like eerie pause where maybe we call it a night.
Amazing.
I think so.
Worst.
Because we're running out of time, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're.
Overtime.
We're over.
Do we lightning round through XP? Do we want to do it sort of next session? How do we want to handle this?
I would love to do it now.
Yeah.
If we could.
Yeah.
Let's
XP.
fire it off and just be quick, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read out prompts because I've got them all on hand.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with Andy, if we can start with your character.
Yeah, let's do that thing.
So you can mark an XP for every time that your actions aligned with your engine's impulse. So the bad thing, which in your case you had 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then address the challenge with knowledge or subtlety.
There's a lot of subtlety.
I was going to say there's lots of subtlety. It depends on how we want to contextualize what a challenge looks like. Like there's the whole process of
Relating to your friends is a challenge.
Great. So yes.
It's like anything that we had to roll dice about, I'm happy to call a challenge. So that came a bunch. I think knowledge can include like knowledge of sadness.
Okay. Yeah.
In this case as well, right? Like
sorrow,
history and sorrow and all that stuff. Those
sure. So I did that a whole bunch between mural and inner talking with
so 2
Tor.
XP there. And sorry, I glossed over the way that it works because we're doing lightning round. But yeah, 1 or 2 for each of these things. Express your beliefs, drives, role, or background.
It came up. Like, I guess when we talk about, we learned that what's the name of our new helper cheerleader at the front, Hildar, right? Like, we realized that regarded as a weirdo. There's that. Yeah. There's a part where we learned about how Abbott became a pilot and was exposed to Leviathan sickness and like that relationship with
stuff from your background. Also your role as a mechanic was front and center a lot of times. So
the time you spent exploring the conclave.
Yeah. So a lot of things.
Yeah. So 2 for that. Struggled with issues from your promises or obligation.
I mean, got shook down by Bantam, right? Which was not the worst thing ever, but wasn't a good day. Struggled to communicate with Tor, right? Like we kept going at
the way that y'all's relationship came up. I think was a good one to highlight. So yeah, I'd say 1 for that because just rolling obligation it isn't enough. It's like obligation kind of spill over for that to really get you XP.
Sure.
Awesome. And then embodied your eclipse or displayed the contents of your heart.
Well, eclipse didn't necessarily come up. Like, I don't necessarily know what that, like, is that the sum of what that is talking about? Like, if you reach eclipse
in the prompt, if you do the stuff that the prompt has on your sheet,
right? Which
you can be in eclipse or not and play into it. But I feel like that stuff didn't come up, and it's kind of early for that stuff to come up. But definitely, we had you displaying the contents of your heart at least on one occasion, right at the end.
Yeah,
where your heart was full of sadness, and you shouted.
Well, and when you were talking to the hangman, the way you built that bond and then later on used that bond.
Yeah, absolutely. So say 2.
It feels real in reflection of my intent.
Great. And then similarly for our time traveler, did you address a challenge with foresight or revelation?
I mean, I used a move that essentially allows me to have inadvertent foresight, but other than that, I think I knew that things were going to get worse, and impartially that was because me as the player then later on said things get worse now, but I knew things were going to get worse, and so that's when I was helping them sort of get more out of my preparation was an attempt to prepare them for the coming woes. Like, this is the first of way worse.
Yeah, you did a good amount of like spooky time traveler foreboding, saying mysterious, ominous things.
You also managed to find in the idea of like this for like insight, like knew where to find Abbott to try and like talk to her. Like, I know that's not at that level of like spooky time traveler dumb, but like as an interpersonal relationship thing.
And this doesn't need to be Sean somehow actually predicting the future. It's just like, doing that bit of magic where we make it look like the character is doing that.
Right.
Is what this is about. Right. So I think you did great at doing that.
Cool.
And then we've got express your beliefs, drives, role, or background.
I think my belief about like this is something we're fated to do. It's a little weird because I'm trying to play her up as subtle and not super bombastic, so it's not so some of the things aren't like coming out as like huge emotion, but like basically like not being there to make sure that there wasn't a big explosion in the debriefing was a very important part for Prophet, that she was like there right behind Reyna, because if Reyna was to like go too far, she would have stopped her, but she's not going to in that moment. Like when Reyna's just like, don't do that, you're not following regulation. But
yeah,
for
I think
me,
that
it
all
was
came
like,
through. Yeah,
yeah,
that you were like always shoring up situations and hedging against things, bad outcomes and stuff like that. So
right. And in the stress scene, there was I depicted a lot of me trying to deal with when things don't go quite right, that it all falls on.
And then in your role
shoulders.
as captain,
And my role as captain,
I feel like you're expressing a lot of that. So
cool.
Yeah, I think in lots of spots.
Struggled with issues from your promises or obligation.
I you know what, I didn't. I mean, I would say I struggled with my promise to Abbott of I will always love Ipsos, but it went pretty well, honestly. Like,
you guys actually you found a way to spend time with her that was effective. That wasn't,
I mean,
like,
it was a
sadness.
challenge. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. Don't have recovery, go away. I have XP. It was a challenge, but it wasn't a struggle, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I don't think I'm going to take it for that.
I mean, my job here is not like, I'm not making decisions about this. This is you guys self-assessing as well. So
but we all want to hold ourselves accountable to be true to what happened. And,
okay, well then let's talk about you embodying your eclipse or displaying the contents of your heart.
I was very guarded in displaying what I felt, but there was
that almost tells a whole other story.
Yeah,
right. But like, to me, I feel like that even though I didn't struggle with my promise, when I did come out to like really reach it out to Abbott and try and find a way to connect to her and like find out if we could reconnect, that was it's a very important part of Prophet, is like,
and however, sorry, you talk.
She's very afraid of rushing it. Like, everything that is true about Reyna, that is a virtue of Reyna, is a fault for Prophet. It's not a fault in Reyna, it's a fault if Prophet does it. So like, she's very afraid of rushing things with what. So it was like this very measured, slow approach to try and win Abbott back. So
so even daring to be vulnerable and broaching the topic is
right, because you could have been like, no, or you could have only seen it at the surface level, like we're talking about engines, and refused to engage, and we knew we would.
Right.
Great.
Cool.
Well, I guess we'll move on to our fiery guardian.
Yeah.
So for Reyna, did she address a challenge with kindness or self-sacrifice?
I have no idea.
Well, I think you were very kind in showing Abbott your hidey hole, your hideout. And then I think you were self-sacrificing in throwing yourself in front of that wave.
Yeah, you were just like, I will put myself directly in harm's way immediately.
And prepared to self-sacrifice, standing up for Abbott in the briefing. Like, I think we saw a lot of that in a number of ways.
I think I do it a lot. I think where I'm getting hung up is addressing challenge. Like, what is a challenge? And so like that's kind of what I'm saying is like, are you folks seeing this as challenges that I'm overcoming with this? Like, obviously I'm trying to self-sacrifice. That part I'm trying, but the question is like, is this really a challenge?
Well, so it doesn't say overcome, it says address. It would be the first thing that I would stress, right? So you are trying to solve things by putting yourself in harm's way, taking on danger. Certainly when we got to the like mission, you were doing action-y stuff. Like, yes, absolutely. But then also like stuff that happens in downtime, I don't want to completely exclude from this, because like your character taking on some like emotional risk by showing someone a secret place and doing you did like the nicest thing. You made bento boxes and like
so good.
And like particularly in the context of interacting with a character with someone who's playing the stranger, I think there's like some tension there. And so I don't want to cut out all the delightful stuff that we did in downtime that was beautiful and lovely, and I don't want to just be like, that doesn't count, because nothing's gonna like stick a knife in you after you roll badly when we're doing it. Like,
it's fair. Do you guys, so 1 XP, 2 XP?
I think it's 2.
All right, cool. What's the next thing, GM sir?
Did you express your beliefs, drives, role, or background?
Tell us where.
I mean, like every 30 seconds. I mean, I think all my beliefs were very much a thing in this episode, and definitely my like drives, right? Like between caring for my team, like tanking, as it were, trying to prove myself, trying to be like even more. There's a comment in chat where they were commenting that you know, when Prophet's like, well, if we're one person down, then all of us have to perform at 133%. And I definitely see Reina in the mentality of, no, just one of us has to do 200%. So
yeah, that's just trying to like take on the...
Yeah. She's trying to take on too much and it's not working. I think we saw her like completely crash. So
well, and that whole aspect of mourning along with
yeah,
like brittle, like wanting to keep a brave face, but like dying on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll definitely come up with the contents of your heart in the last one, I think.
Oh man. I don't, is there free play after the mission? I'm just asking.
There is room for free play. And like we did a little bit just before the mission where it was like, you're getting a briefing and there's some like interaction.
Yeah, okay, cool. Cool.
I feel like being saved by Prophet really has to not be a good thing. Like you know, in that
that's
sense.
It's not a good thing, but not for the reason you expect, and we'll have very fiery words the next time.
Yeah.
So
all right,
let's move on to the next one here, which is, did you struggle with issues from your promises or obligation?
I feel like I struggled with my obligation a little. I'm not sure about my promises. I was trying to like...
Yeah, you like carried a bunch of detail from like the whole showmanship aspect. You were incorporating that yourself, right? Bringing it into the later scenes, taking the time to like pose for the cameras, do the interviews, all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Getting there late because you were trying to...
Yeah, I feel like you expressed a lot of cool stuff around that and highlighted that really nicely for your character.
And also, I think the reason the wave crushed me, I know that Prophet saved me, so like let's not pretend that, well, I don't know, this might be one of those did you try, but I think this was just like a moment where I tried a little too hard to fill two roles, and like this goes back to my promise that if somebody's going to sacrifice themselves, it's not going to be Prophet.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I was trying to act on that. It's just the dice and the powers didn't quite work out, but I was going for it.
But yeah, that came through.
Yeah.
Sure. And also I love that like you like shot your shot and they were like, oh cool, I guess I just die now.
I was like, actually it was really funny because like if we had a snapshot of my mind at that moment, it would have been like, my only regret is not stopping the wave.
Right.
Yeah, like that.
If you could have gotten the 4-5 result, you would have been stoked, right? Like if you at least done it. Yeah.
And I know it didn't happen, but I want everyone in the audience to know, if I died in that scene, my last thought would be, Z, can we visit the garden together once we're both ghosts in the machine?
And the answer is no, you can't. Because you're stuck in a machine.
Of course.
You embody your eclipse or display the contents of your heart. I mean, like
contents of my heart for sure.
So
sure.
much.
Yeah, your hearty heart.
All right, I have not been keeping track of these. Can somebody just tell me how many XP I have?
I wasn't counting.
I think you're at the maximum is 8, and so I think you were at like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think you're at 7. I think there was one category where you were like
7 sounds great.
And
that means that I can get a dot in something because there's never enough skill points in this.
Yeah. In retrospect, when you went over it the last time, Ashrash, I forgot that you get XP for promises or obligations, and I didn't take one. I took one for promises, but I'm going to retroactively go back and take another one in that category for obligations, because that beginning part for me was crushing to my character, in part because I rolled a 1 and got 5 stress, but like in part because like all those things just
we dug extra deep into it,
tore really a part of her. So
sure.
That puts me at a total of 6.
And then anyone who had it come up that they were playing into the impulse of their engine, you mark an XP when you do that. So
nice.
So
is powerful the thing, or are you talking
powerful
about
is the virtue? It's when you lean into tormented, wounded, cursed, or feral.
I feel like we might see some cursed next time. We've hinted at it, but I don't think I've leaned into it.
I was
Or well,
thinking about
Sean needs to lean into it because he's
Yeah.
piloting the
yeah,
curse thing.
I'm kind of following the curse thing.
By the way, super quick,
Mhm.
I bought that dot of confess because that seems to be a whole lot of what I do, and I put some extra experience in tsundere so that I can take it up next time.
Nice.
What is skill
the
caps? Because I see that the dots are colored a little weird.
Oh yeah, so when you're not transcended, your cap is 2. While transcended, it can go up to 4.
Do we buy the skill at 3 and it just doesn't act that way until we transcend, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you'll just advance it normally, but if you're not transcended, the most dice you'll ever roll for your action is 2.
Okay.
It's like the other ones are locked unless you transcend.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
And how much is the XP? Is it the same 6 for abilities and 8 for playbook?
That is correct.
Cool.
And then yeah, anyone who rolled desperate actions, which we can go back through the Roll20 like roll.
I think we each
track.
rolled 1.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you get an extra XP for that in the appropriate attribute. So we can do some bookkeeping later because we're just trying to blitz through. So crew XP. At the end of each session, for each item below, mark 1 XP or 2 if it occurred multiple times. Successfully carry out a mission from the crew's list. Not yet.
Not yet.
Struggle with your place in the world and protect the last bastion.
In progress.
I think we got 2 for
I
that.
think we got 2. I think we did both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Reveal the tragic history of the bastion, leviathans, and engines. I'm going to say 2 again because we're
okay.
all
We're
we did
exploring
was
it.
develop
all of
the
it.
setting more this whole
Okay,
time.
that's fair.
So any information we have, we pretty much came up with during the session. So it's kind of inevitable. And then express the essential nature, origin, or destiny of the crew.
I feel like we definitely expressed our essential nature to a great degree between how we have our relationships, what we're mourning, and kind of how we never relate to each other directly, but only through subtext.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like there was just lots of good stuff in there.
And how there's no, even though we're intimately connected to each other, we also are like very distant. Like most of our scenes were all of us very far apart. The only times we were all sitting together was when we were in a briefing room, and we have these like dyad connections.
Yeah.
And also Raina and Prophet don't talk to each other at all.
Oh, we're gonna talk.
Right? Like,
well, and it's also really lovely to consider how the time at which the three of us were the closest was when faced with an external threat.
Yep, and then everyone latched together.
Yeah.
That was where you were most openly emotional with this like howl of pain and all this stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
It's great.
Indeed.
So that gets y'all 6 crew XP, which I will mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So surely next session y'all will get an advance.
Cool.
That's it. Scroll by Moonlight. Woo!
Yay.
Dun, da, da.
Awesome. Okay, so we want to do one last thing, which is just little outros. Andrew, why don't you start?
So this is Scroll by Moonlight, a game that I, Andrew, have designed. Bask in its glory. You can follow me on Twitter at @CommutingCrow. There is a link pinned on my Twitter to the document for this game. It has all the rules, it has the character sheets, all that stuff. Please playtest it if you are interested. I will try to finish it as soon as I can. You can also follow me on Twitter at on twitch.tv/actualfactual, or I'm on the Roll20 app Twitch channel twice a week doing Burning Wheel and Dungeons & Dragons Tomb of Annihilation. And I am also on a bunch of other channels. So I don't know, follow me on Twitter. You'll see where I'm at. Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy. Thanks for being here. More fun, all the merrier. Thank you. Let's all be sad together. If you want to find me in the great big bad world, the best place to find me is on Twitter at Fictional Mammal. And I suppose I'll see you there or here. Strash.
Oh, hey, I'm Strash. You can find me at Twitter at StrashA, and I am here on Actual Play mostly, and also occasionally I play other games with other people on other channels. Most notably, recently I've been running Band of Blades on Kelsa's channel, so Kelsa Delphi on Sunday. You should be able to see us, and yeah, you should check out this game because it's awesome. And also Scam and Villainy if you like space opera. It's based on the same system, which is Blades in the Dark, and pretty soon I'll have some Band of Blades to share with everyone. So yep.
So many good games. I'm Sean Nittner. You can find me at Sean Nittner pretty much everywhere. Right now on this channel, we're streaming Agon Second Edition playtest, this which is some playtest, and Blades on various days. So lots of fun stuff happening here. Actual Play just became affiliated. We're very excited. John Harper, the author of Blades in the Dark, which this is based off of, and of other games like Agon First Edition and Lady Blackbird, has made a special offer, which is that anybody who subs during this game will get a free copy of a bunch of his PDFs, including Blades in the Dark and other things. So if you are joining and you can sub, we would greatly appreciate it to help us cover the costs, and John will give you some goodies in appreciation. I'm also occasionally streaming on other channels. I'm playing Torchbearer on Eric Vulgaris' channel, and we've been having lots of fun. Just last night we charmed an ogre, and it was amazing. So good times making friends with ogres, and that's my jam. This has been Girl by Moonlight, which has been wonderful. Thank you all for being on the show, and thank you, Andrew, for running for us, and thank you, Andy, for your agony of pain that brought through to them, and thank you, Strauss, for all the hype and the excitement that we needed for this game. Super good. We'll be back. I don't know when we're back. I think in a week or two, 2 weeks. So should be great times, and bye everybody. You take care.